The other day, there was a horrible tragedy in Orlando, Florida,
Right.
at the Pulse nightclub.
Yes.
And right now, a lot of pundits, politicians are calling for stricter gun control in response to that. Do you think that that will stop these people from being able to hurt us?
Well, that's going to be, I mean, in a way, it's going to tackle the issue, but there's a fundamental problem with it, which is violence in this country and how we deal with it. Like right now, there's a media explosion about the tragedy in Orlando, but how do we mourn those lives and how do we mourn as individuals, from the LGBT community? How do we make sense of that? Like, I'm speechless, my friends are speechless. We don't know how to account for that, and how do we live in a constant state of emergency and, stop living in fear to go out in the public, go clubbing, go to the university, go to the movies. So I hope that with this legislation and registry, that will diminish and hopefully extinguish the problem, but it comes down to other ideologies that promote xenophobia and racism, and that needs to be tackled too, along with that legislation.
And that's one of the questions. In Obama's speech addressing the nation, he didn't mention Islam. He said that this is hate, that it's terrorism. He said that we don't have any definitive motivation behind Omar Mateen, but
Right.
Omar declared his allegiance in a 911 call to ISIS.
Well, declaring allegiance doesn't speak to the fact that he belonged to ISIS, and yeah, I don't think it's.
Did you know that the Fort Pierce Islamic Center, where he worshipped, their leader, one of their religious leaders, said on video, it's on videos of him saying that gay people, the punishment for being gay is death.
Well, that's unfortunate. I mean, that's sad too, and that's what I mean with tackling down ideologies.
So if we take guns away from Americans, but we still have this ideology, Islam, that in over 11 Islamic nations, there's state executions of gay people, wouldn't they just find another way to kill gay people or anybody, Christians, white people, whoever they hate?
Yeah, but I don't think that violence, a violent response to violence will eliminate violence. And
I mean, wasn't it violence that finally stopped Omar Mateen with the SWAT team at 5 a.m.? He killed 49 people. And it took a team of men with guns to go and take this guy out.
Right.
Wouldn't he have kept killing people if we didn't meet him with equal or greater violence? It's self-defense, right? I mean, at some point.
I mean, but where do you draw the line? That's I understand, there was a response to that incident, to that
Sure.
act of terror. But I don't think that guns
Like
will
this
take down terrorism. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Terrorism is it's a daily practice rooted in ideologies and way people think. You're not gonna shoot an ideology just by shooting people.
It's like my shirt says, ideas are bulletproof. But at the same time, it is a discouragement. These people target gun-free zones. They target areas where nobody can defend themselves. They don't go after military bases where there's armed guards. They go after nightclubs where people are disarmed.
Well, but the U.S. military also goes out there and targets civilians. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's a response. I'm not making an excuse for any sides. I'm just saying that violence is not going to end violence.
We'll have to agree to disagree there. Do you guys have anything to say about what happened the other day?
What's the question? Where do you want to get to? Because it seems like the question is framed. You're framing the question, and you want a particular answer.
Well, no, I mean, I want your answer. You gave your answer. You said you don't think violence is a proper way to respond to it. But having people with concealed carry within a nightclub situation like that, maybe they're the employee, they have a weapon, and they're ready to defend people. I mean, if it means that instead of 49 people die, that maybe 2 people die. To me, I think that's a better solution than changing her profile picture to a gay flag and trying to hug a Muslim or something. I just don't see. They don't respect us. I think they're celebrating. We have 49 people dead, and instead of toughening our people, instead of creating a legitimate defense against these kind of attacks, Hillary Clinton just says we need to give up our means of defense or make it harder for people to defend themselves, while she has armed bodyguards. And it was the Clinton State Department who told DHS and FBI to call off the investigation on Omar Mateen and the Fort Pierce Islamic Center. So yeah, I think it's easy for people who are guarded by armed security guards to say, yeah, we should have stricter gun laws, but for the everyday person who just wants to be safe, I don't think that's a reasonable solution to this problem. They're going to build a bomb. They'll drive a truck and run people over. They'll find a way to hurt people, whether it's legal or not. I mean, bombs are illegal. Drugs are illegal. We still have drugs all over. It doesn't solve the problem. So, and that's me telling you my view on it. Like you said, that's
no, I understand where you're coming from. I totally.
But this is the gay community here, and I think the gay community for a long time has been very peaceful. I mean, you guys.
I mean, peaceful. We can quote it, but quotation marks. But it's the gay community, like the LGBT community, has had a history of oppression. It's not just the incident in Orlando. I mean, back in Stonewall, the riots in Stonewall, all of that. So,
gay people. This is just an act of terror.
Yes.
But gay people have always been violated, and their rights have always been taken away. They've always had issues just within the country. They've always had issues with being able to just be who they are. So this is one instance of extreme levels of violence, but gay people have had to deal with violence forever.
All along.
But this is, the greatest mass shooting in American history, and it was targeted at the gay community specifically.
Right.
So that's why I'm here.
Right. Yeah. No. I
It's
agree.
horrible.
No, I agree. It's sad.
It's very sad.
It's unfortunate.
Which is why it's so upsetting, because they've been violated. Their rights have been taken away for such a long period of time. This is a space for them to be able to be who they are, interact with other people, and that safety has been shattered because of this incident. At the same time, this is one person. This is not. I don't think this person is representative of all Muslims or all people.
Iman, speaking in Orlando, said gays must be killed out of compassion. Here's that clip.
Death is the sentence. I mean, look, there's nothing to be embarrassed about this. Death is the sentence. But we have to have that compassion for people. With homosexuals, the same. Out of compassion, let's get rid of him now.
Who believe in the Islamic faith. I mean, just this very weekend, we had Muhammad Ali's funeral, and he wanted to he gave out free tickets so that everybody could come to his funeral and see that the Muslim faith is actually peaceful. It's a peaceful faith. It's a peaceful belief system. So it's very interesting to see sort of these contradictions occurring. You have Muhammad Ali's funeral, his family opens it up for everybody to come and be a part of the funeral, and then you have this. This is one person. This is not representative of the Islamic faith, and I think that we have to really make sure to keep that in mind, because if we don't, that's just going to perpetuate more violence.
I mean, and that's what I've heard a lot, is that we can't characterize Islam as hateful. Mm-hmm. But if you take into account the fact that 11 Islamic states have state executions of gay people, a lot of times throwing them off the tops of buildings, I mean, that is representative of a large portion of.
But that's not just in the Middle East. I mean, you have that happening in Latin America. You have that happening in Africa. You have that happening in Asia. This is not what they're doing to gay people is no different than any other country in the world that's done very similar things, if not worse. So we can't look at the Middle East or Muslims as the enemy. These are radical extremists. This is ISIS, or people who are following the ISIS ideology, you might want to say, but this is not representative of the Muslim faith. And I think we as Americans have to be really careful about how we talk about this issue, because there's, they attacked a group of people that have had a history of repression in this country, who have a history of repression throughout the world, and they're also being attacked by somebody who identifies as Muslim, and Muslims have also in this country been repressed, have also been victims of U.S. intervention. We also have to keep all of those things in mind. We can't just jump to conclusions that the whole Middle East is, against gay people and against the United States. I mean, we have to be really, really careful, and that's why I think this particular massacre is slightly different because of the community that was attacked and the history that they have, not just in this country in terms of repression, but throughout the world. And in terms of gun safety, I mean, it's obvious. We need to pass stricter gun laws. Nobody should be able to go into a store and buy an assault rifle weapon. What do you need an assault rifle weapon for? That's not to protect yourself. That is to kill mass groups of people. I'm all for the right to bear arms, but why do people have a gun that's huge, that's going to kill 50 people in a matter of seconds? That's ridiculous. We don't need that. That's not about defending yourself or defending your right. That's about killing groups of people. That's about perpetuating more violence. And we also have to look at ourselves here too, because we're also guilty. We have not done what we need to do to pass safer gun laws in this country. It's not just this guy. It's the guy who was in South Carolina. It's Columbine. Where 16-year-olds went in.
What about the Zarnev brothers? They didn't use assault rifles, but they still killed a lot of people. They still blew people's legs off.
I mean, we can look at all. I mean, we can look at all the different cases. We can look at all the different situations.
But
the fact of the matter is that we have to look close. We have to take a good look at ourselves too. This is not just about radical, radical person or a radical faith. This is not just about that. This is about us. We're not doing what we need to do to protect our own people by passing legislation so that this doesn't happen again. I'm not going to say anymore because it's so, it's just so upsetting. It's like I can't even verbalize.
Okay.
I think